Howdy, partner. Welcome to Mommy Don's Booty Leg production of Unhinged, Unleashed, Mad Frenzy Elden Lore speculation. I'm not credible or any authority to be doing this, but it's fun. Sue me. So, today I want to continue my Justice for America campaign. As I have implied in my last video, I believe that since history is his story, it's written by the victors, by the quote unquote winners, by whoever ended up being more cruel, vicious, and vile, and divide and conquer. And this means we have the delta of possibility of a truth not being told. Talking about truth not being told, I want to highlight a connection that I encountered, which is similarities between George R.R. Martin's books A Song of Ice and Fire and Miyazaki's Elden Ring. We know that George wrote something that FromSoft through Mia was able to use for a game that they made. And I think most of us, or at least I, was under the impression that he wrote something new for them or something unique that they could use. But there are so many parallels between A Song of Ice and Fire and things that are happening there and in Elden Ring that something became obvious to me. And I will go into details about that in a second. I just want to shout out the one creator that I found on this platform who seems very, very familiar with lores of both sides, which is Jack is a mimic, an absolute Uber babe. If for whatever fucking reason you found my channel and you don't know about his, you go subscribe to his channel right now, watch all of his videos, and only then come back and continue this one here. So, yeah, he made me look into some lore creators around A Song of Ice and Fire. And I was looking into those parallels, and I don't think that Elden Ring will spoil anything that is about to happen in the books. I don't think the book readers will find any new things in Elden Ring, but what they will find is an extension of the books, or at least of the books actually, because I understand George keeps the books to the more personal aspects, the dilemma of the characters of trying to be good people, do moral good things about wars that are happening and territorial fights, war strategies. It's very that. And the Elden Ring is a song of ice and fire with all the magic that is implied in the books, but not necessarily spelled out in the same way. So I think George and Mia came together, and Mia being a huge fan of George's work, and George being a fan of Mia and his stuff, that they agreed that George would let Mia in on where he's going with the books. But George is planning to finish the books in a time span which would end, so the end game of the books would be before Elden Ring starts. So that Mia can take a hypothetically future, but he's not telling anything new. He's just retelling what George already told in the books, but with the magic or with an emphasis on the actual magic. All of that is not explicitly explained or told through George. And that is a elegant way for Mia to find a way to work with his idealism that he has, because he seems to have implied in interviews that if he admires someone, if he finds a muse and he loves the material, he would not really take the source material and touch that. He's too respectful of that. He doesn't want to change the artistic vision or integrity or compromise the game because the source material would not allow for direct implementation of stuff in a linear way. So he will find a way to put it in a setting, scenario, environment where he can play around with it, but not compromise neither the source material nor his own idealism. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, Miyazaki. I love you. So I'm not familiar with George R. R. Martin at all. I have not read the books. I have not seen the show. But through watching some of these lore videos from other creators, I found some interesting parallels that I want to share with you today because I think us as Elden Ring lore explorers and gamers, we find a shitload of information in the books that we can't find in the game. So let me take a sip of water before I start. Right. So in A Song of Ice and Fire, we have three factions that are mentioned in the very beginning of as the story starts to unfold. We have Children of the Forest, and we have wait, I had it just ready here. Let me read this here. The others, known as the White Walkers to the free folk, and rarely the cold gods and the white shadows, are humanoids originating in the far north of the continent of Westeros, beyond even the land of always winter beyond the wall. They are considered mythical by most of the people of Westeros. Despite what is thought, they are not dead. According to legend, the others first appeared approximately 8,000 years ago out of the extreme north. At this time, peace reigned in Westeros due to the pact between the children of the forest and the first men. Ah, yeah, the first man was what I was looking for before. And they were unprepared for the scale of the invasion of the others. The others' arrival was preceded by a winter that lasted a generation and a period of darkness known as the Long Night, although it is unclear if this was a literal period of darkness lasting years or merely an artistic term. La 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 la. All right. So I forgot to mention in the thumbnail, we see a depiction of a couple from the trailer Shadow of the Earth 3, and I think that's Marika's parents. Hear me out. I think that dude, that old man, is Marika's father. We don't know his name, but I think he's the guy, one of the guys that's depicted in those statues. I think he's holding flowers or something in Leyndell around the Altus Plateau. There's like an elderly man who's not Elden John, and I think that's the same guy from the trailer. And I think that's Marika's mother. I think that's the Gloam Eyed Queen, pregnant with Marika, whatever her name was as a girl. And why I'm saying that madness is because of another parallel that I found, which is I think Marika is Daenerys Targaryen from the books, and Godfrey was Khal Drago. Why I'm saying that is I watched a video of David Lightbringer, one of the A Song of Ice and Fire. I have to find a way to abbreviate that. Lore specialists, and he made a video called "Born to Burn the Others." GRRM. Oh, that's my title. So David's title was "Born to Burn the Others." Uh, Daenerys and Game Theory. And I'm using this to make my GRRM and Miyazaki dual story theory. So Daenerys was born to burn the others that came to the lands and apparently threatened the two factions, Children of the Forest and First Men. So something interesting to note here. Apparently, Children of the Forest are one of the groups who are there for a very, very, very long time, are all women. And then there are the First Men, which is a group of, well, some Vikings or what do I know, who came to the lands, met the children of the forest, and they kind of like got along, got together, were friends with each other. And then apparently some bad others came from colds from the cold region very far up north, and threaten them and want to attack them and want to do bad things to them. Now, the lore speculists, the lore experts speculate that there's a chance that the others were actually the original inhabitants of the lands, and they were pushed away by the first men and or children of the forest. There must something weird be going on there, because children of the forest are all girls or women, and the others are all men. So there's a chance that these two were one faction at some point, had a fight, got split up for some reason, did some hetero binary split, and then whoever those first main men were came. And I don't think the children of the forest were honest to them. There are things going on with people being tied to trees and dragon eyes being pushed into their chest, which makes them immortal or something. So, guys, very, very sad. So, how am I going to tie all of this mess with my mental gymnastics to Elden Ring? So, the others, they come from the cold, they come from ice, they come from snow. Why the fuck do we go from Leyndell up to the mountains to the snow? With the fire giant there. Yeah, we know there's a fire giant there who protects some eternal fire, blah, blah, blah. He's the last survivor, but weird, right? So the others could be the giants, the children of the forest, or I think the Nox, and the free men were the Newman, the new man. That's something that I don't know where I heard that, but it's so in the name. I was constantly stuck on Kantian's Numenon and played around with that. But I think Numen stands for new man. It's the new man that came, the free man in George's books. So the Numen came, and the children of the forest were probably the Ul dynasty, and the others were the Oud dynasty. Maybe it's the other way around. I will just go with this for so I can go ahead with the video. So we have the Ul, children of the forest. We have the Numen. They are mingling with the Ul culture. Ul was already split up, one group into Ul and Oud. So, okay, now I'm not making sense, because if Oud is the other split faction, then they would represent the others. Which, you know what? Let's just go with that. Let's say it's like that. So the Numen come, the split offs of them become the Nox. There's also a possibility, and that's something I picked up on Zaif the Scholar's recent video, lore lessons that he's doing. That one guy in the comment had the theory that the Numen and the Nox were one faction at one point and split up. And I can see how the the Ut, Ul, Ul, the Ul dynasty was, it sounds like old, right? One of the old dynasties had probably eventually at some point disagreements, and they split up into Ul and Ud. And the Numen split up into Numen and Nox. And Marika, I believe, was born into a Numen family. I think her father was a pretty high animal, somewhere up in the gods' political levels, because we have Elden John, who's probably the saint of the Ice faction, or what became the Ice faction. And then we have the dynasty around Marika's daddy, who was the beginning of the whole Golden Order fascism that happened later on. But Marika has nothing to do with that. We're not there, because I think the Targaryens, if Marika and Daenerys are the a similar character in two different platforms, then the Targaryens were known as mad. Daenerys Targaryen's father went completely batshit crazy, and there is an unknowing, unclearness, uncertainty whether Daenerys could go crazy as well or not. In the show, apparently, they did take that turn that she would go mad and crazy. But I think Miyazaki is not doing the same thing. I think Miyazaki shows Daenerys as Marika not going mad, but since Marika wanted to do something good, she actually wanted to go against her father. But her father fucked her up, like some fathers do, right? And her story, her actual story, is not really told nowhere because, or at least not directly, since the victors overwrote what Marika was trying. So my basis for this is a couple of passages that I want to write to you from a script of David Lightbringer's video, Born to Burn the Others. I will just read it the way he was talking about it in the video and then come back with some notes at the end. Daenerys Targaryen was born to burn the others with dragonfire. Let it be known by the end of the very first book. Oh, let it be known. By the end of the very first book, we can see that it was at the very least her destiny to wake dragons from stone. And what are dragons good for? Burning the others. I say let's not overthink this. Using dragons to conquer other men is essentially the temptation that Dany must avoid, in my opinion. I mean, it's one thing to use the dragons to burn slave masters and free slaves, which I fully endorse, but it seems clear to me that using the dragons to reconquer the land of her ancestors by force is a trap. It's a trap and a path to destruction. But here's the thing. Dany's admirable habit of using her dragons to free slaves and protect the weak is not only one of her best qualities and a great reason why she could never become a butcher of innocent civilians, it is also one of the key foreshadowings of her ultimate destiny, which is using her dragon power to help defeat the others. The others, as you may have noticed, hold the dead in internal bondage, which you could certainly consider magical slavery. Indeed, the whites are called the thralls of the others, with the implication being that some part of the dead person's soul is trapped inside their enchanted corpse, unable to find eternal peace and perhaps even condemned to watch the here the transcript is blanking, being wrought with their own dead hands. It's quite the abomination. Towards the end of the video, he closes. There's actually another interesting line from this chapter that points the same direction north. North they flew beyond the river, Drogon gliding on torn and tattered wings, through clouds that whipped by like the banners of some ghostly army. All right, so Dany is is on Drogon and going north. And look, it's the banners of some ghost army. I wonder who that could be. Taken together with the scene with the miniature wall and the ants, it seems that this Dany chapter is showing us quite a bit of what the to go north path of Quavi's mysterious instructions is all about. Bringing fire and blood to the others. Okay, so that was my reading of David's video. So let's quickly go through this again and see how this reads Marika all over the place for me. Marika was born to burn the others. So she was born to bring some kind of. She was born and she had innate dragon powers that no one that was remaining or was around had to the extent that she had. So I think she was some dragon mother, lover, super babe who had a special connections to dragons. And I think she was made that way and born to do something for her parents, for her father. I think, by the way, the woman who's pregnant with Marika is the Gloam Eyed Queen. Yeah, I said it. I mean, we don't know enough to deny my claim, at least I think. Otherwise, let me know in the comments. So we have Marika's parents who want to use Marika's dragon powers to reconquer their ancestral land. So whoever took whose land away, but they wanted to go to war and wanted to use dragons for it. Maybe going to war against the fire giants in the ice. I don't know. But then again, maybe the fire giants were there first because it looks like the oldest buildings that we can detect in Elden Ring are all built as being inhabited by fucking giants. So yeah, there's definitely something about very, very tall, huge, gigantic, enormous people living there long before any of these Golden Order shenanigans happened. So it was her destiny to wake the dragons, and there is a temptation for Marika to use her powers to actually help their parents with their mission of retaking the lands. But she sees so much shit happening, very um, Siddhartha Buddha style, and decides to use her powers to free people, burn slave masters, free slaves. And obviously, all of those who profited off of slaves and who needed slaves and wanted to have slaves were really not vibing with Marika's newfound heroine narrative that she wanted to paint for herself. So, yeah, probably for her it was a trap. And let's say Marika used the dragons and she used to not go against the whatever imminent threat was there. Her father goes completely bonkers. He has some spine sword madness situation going. Now, the shattering of the earth, uh, shattering of the Elden Ring, shattering and shadow ring sounds very similar to me. So, what if the shattering is actually has to do with the shadow realm being created, Marika being kind of like pushed there in her father's absolute going bonkers madness. The Gloam Eyed Queen is also going fucked up somewhere. Who knows what's happening to her? Maybe trying to help her daughter and save her husband or something. We don't know yet. We hope that the DLC will answer some questions. And Marika is somehow pushed away. I mean, the others in the books hold the dead, hold the dead in internal bondage. So Marika wanted to free those who were held in internal bondage, the dead, living in death, the living in death. And magical slavery. Yeah, so maybe all of those land in between zombies that are walking around are slaves to this whole um, protecting ghost castles and whatnot. And the ghost banners that are mentioned later on, the ghostly army and the ghost banners, really gave me, or the banners of the ghostly army, it reminded me of those shadows of banners that we see in around Altus Plateau. I also never really understood all of these shadow elements happening in the ice up there. You have all those ghost animals, the ghost trees that are up there, the ghost symbols, and some ancient rocks lying around there. So that whole ice area is really driving me crazy. So how do I close this? Let me think. Let me just maybe mention on a fucking side note that I am wondering if Radagon was someone who used the myth of Marika in some way or conspired with her father. I would have to look in the books for a reference of who could that be in the books. I don't think it's Jon Snow. But anyway, so Radagon was a super asshole, uh, probably also a puppet or a marionette of someone, and he probably imposed as Marika and as himself, and that's how we got the whole ruse going of being able to be someone's mother without them ever seeing their mother and their father in the same room. Because mom was long gone in the fucking shadows. And Radagon imposing as Marika did all of this war nonsense that we associate easily with Marika being the tyrant. But as I say, justice for Marika. She didn't do none of that shit. She wanted to be a good girl. She wanted to, I mean, not a good girl for her daddy, but a good girl for people who were oppressed and who needed her help. And what was the thank for that? A fucking witch hunt, a fucking um slander, slander and slayage. That's what it was. And yeah, let's see where I will take this next. My throat is absolutely killing me, and if you made it that far, this far, if you're here, still hearing me, I love you. Thank you so much. Speak soon. Bye.